here. Thank you! It's finally here. I ordered this book like 4 weeks ago. It's back ordered everywhere. Some places won't even ship it till this summer. So I'll drop the link to the place where I ordered it from. It did still take a month, but that's better than waiting 5 months for it to even ship. Anyway, I'm super excited to open it up, so let's do it. The Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson. Part of the reason why it's so popular and everybody wants to read it is because it just came out in 2020 and it has a lot of rave reviews. Obama said it's one of his favorite books of 2020, and Ezra Klein from Vox said that if he could get policymakers and citizens to read just one book this year, it would be this one. This book is an example of Cli-fi, which is a genre that's increasingly gaining popularity. Cli-fi, if you haven't heard of it, is like sci-fi, science fiction, but it's focused on climate change. It's sounding the alarms of climate change in a narrative form, trying to make us aware of the issue that's coming and possible solutions, of course in the form of fiction, so it can be entertaining to read as well. If I could, I'm going to read you a section from inside the cover to give you an idea of what this book is all about. The Ministry for the Future is a masterpiece of the imagination, using fictional eyewitness accounts to tell the story of how climate change will affect us all. Its setting is not a desolate post-apocalyptic world, but a future that is almost upon us, and in which we might just overcome the extraordinary challenges we face. It is a novel both immediate and impactful, desperate and hopeful in equal measure, and it is one of the most powerful and original books on climate change ever written. Even though what I just read from the dust jacket suggests that the book is hopeful, it still is natural for doom to set in when we're talking about such a huge issue like climate change. I do want to be intentional as I read this to think of ways that I can be spurred forward to positive action. I don't want to be frozen by my sense of fear, doom, and dread. As Michael E. Mann recently tweeted, who's the author of another book that's on my list of books to read called The New Climate War, "We are all doomed" is nearly the opposite of "we are all doomed if we fail to take action." The latter is true, while the former is false. The latter speaks to both urgency and agency, while the former speaks to neither. In other words, saying we are all doomed unless we do something about it offers us a glimmer of hope. Doom isn't the only thing that can prevent us from taking action and from pushing our politicians to take serious radical action. On the other end of the spectrum is a sense of apathy and ignorance, and ignorance is bliss. I'm just going to keep living my life as normal. We cannot afford to do that as individuals or as a society. A book like The Ministry for Our Future forces us to stare into the reality of climate change that's already happening and is only worsening. We continue to emit more and more carbon. We must take radical action. Radical action like banning fracking, ending the fossil fuel subsidies, and the $1.7 trillion investment in clean energy that Biden promised in his climate plan. A book like this forces us to see the reality of our future if we do none of those things. It's scary and it's hard to sit with those things, but we must do it. The only other alternative is ignoring the realities of climate change, numbing ourselves to it, distancing it from our lives, focusing on things like the animals that are being impacted and not realizing that our neighbors and even ourselves are already negatively impacted from the air we breathe, from the rising temperatures and the rising seas. We can either accept that reality and try to do something about it as a society, or we can ignore the reality and continue on business like usual. It may be easier to ignore, but the reality is soon we won't be able to ignore it. So I will be reading my first Cli-fi book, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be challenging, but a rewarding experience as well. How about you? Have you read any Cli-fi? I'd love to hear your experience. Did it challenge you? Did it scare you? Was it an overall positive experience? If you read this book, please let me know down in the comments section. May we be better citizens of the world today and every day. See you in the next one.